Nevada is now.
It's been more than 20 years since a Las Vegan made a splash in the strange world of UFOs back in the late 80s. A guy named Bob Lazar told wild stories about weird craft being tested at Area 51, and his story is still reverberating around the world. Well, now another local man has caused a furor among those who follow the UFO subject. He's a former Army intelligence officer, well known to 8 News Now viewers, who used his contacts in the government to track down saucer rumors. The I-Team's George Knapp has that story.
This theme of yours, that it's important to study it. Why?
Well, because there are very real phenomena. I think that we need to understand. This is going to lead us to a different understanding of how the universe is built.
Dr. John Alexander is skeptical by nature, but not about UFOs, not anymore. After many years of stalking the topic through the corridors of power in Washington and the far-flung nooks and crannies of the military-industrial complex, the former military intelligence officer is convinced that some of the objects seen in the skies are alien in origin and deserve to be studied.
I think it was from outer space.
UFOs are real, and I'm talking here about physical reality. There are craft that are seen. Part of the problem is identifying what do you mean by a UFO, because you got little balls of light floating around, 2 craft, more than a mile across that are hard, that show up on radar and, are really there.
But despite his acceptance of the basic UFO story, Alexander is viewed with suspicion and scorn by the pro-UFO crowd. A real-life man in black, someone called him. His frequent trips to UFO conferences are often met with overt hostility and tough questions.
It was not just 1 or 2 events.
Right. I'm sure they remember the question. The question is, what do you think it is? In your best judgment.
The true believers are even more intolerant than the skeptics. I mean, if you don't buy their specific brand, whatever that is, then you become the enemy.
Alexander's blasphemy is that he doubts there's an active cover-up by the government. In his new book, UFOs, Myths, Conspiracies, and Realities, he describes his lengthy search for the keepers of the secrets. While still on active duty with the Army, Colonel Alexander got the green light to create the military's only UFO working group, tasked with finding where the reports all go and who might be holding material from crashed saucers.
Our supposition was there's got to be a black program someplace. In other words, somebody's minding the store. And over time, we had a series of meetings. Everybody was interested in what everybody else was doing, but nobody said they were doing it. It's always somebody else. I talked to either the head or the deputy of all of the lettered agencies that you know about, some that you don't. And it was consistent across the board.
Contrary to the government's public position, Alexander says he found broad interest in UFOs within intelligence agencies and the military, including many top officials who've had their own experiences. But if there's a warehouse filled with UFO secrets, he never found it. And his conclusion that there is no active cover-up has led to accusations that he's part of the conspiracy.
My premise is we're not even at the point of asking the right questions. And yet the UFO community has decided on what the answer should be.
To extend his blasphemy even further, Alexander thinks UFOs are not necessarily extraterrestrial. The ultimate truth, he says, could be much more complicated. At a minimum, Alexander argues, people should be allowed to study this without fear of ridicule.
We need to make it permissible to look at these very real phenomena, but to do so without risking your career or livelihood. I mean, this is a tar baby. If you get associated with it, and I can show you the scars.
George Knapp, 8 News Now.
It does impact.
John Alexander will be speaking at the Clark County Library on East Flamingo Thursday, September 8th. George Knapp will be the moderator. We have a link to more information on our website.